Good morning, everybody, and happy Saturday, sports fans. Welcome to the last leg of this draft-a-thon. I would say that today would be the official draft-a-thon, seeing as how we're going to go through rounds 4 through 7, starting here shortly at noon today. Now, as exciting as this has all been, rounds 1 through 3, I'm not going to lie. One of my most favorite parts of the draft is actually keeping tabs on those priority free agents post-drafts, seeing the guys that didn't come off the board who we expected to, seeing what they do after the fact. They kind of have that extra thing to prove, seeing as how they didn't get picked up where they had hoped or dreamed or thought. So it's always really interesting to see where these priority free agents end up, and it's also even more exciting to see what they end up doing in their career and in this next chapter as a priority free agents. If you guys haven't picked up on it by now, I'm definitely an advocate for those underdogs. So it's exciting to see what takes place today. Rounds 4 through 7 kick off here shortly at noon. As for yesterday, rounds 2 and 3 took place last night at 7 p.m. Now, this is probably the first year in a while. I nerd out over sports stuff, if you guys couldn't tell by now. I make mock drafts every single year in a notebook, pen to paper. I probably make about 6, 7, 8, 9 mock drafts. This is the first year where my mock draft has felt like a March Madness bracket. No, I haven't shredded my notes yet, but I definitely have been off cue on a lot of things. We have focused a lot on Tampa Bay picks and possible predictions, but for me, I was kind of off key on most of my picks this year when it comes to Tampa Bay. I feel pretty good about what I've come up with in terms of Miami, and then Jacksonville, well, Jacksonville was a little all over the board to me. I didn't know if they had much of a single focus. It's kind of they picked and plucked here and there, but we're going to pick up by starting with the NFC South as a whole for a minute. Now, post-draft day 1, the NFC South stack. Who won the draft? Well, in my opinion, the Bucs and the Falcons probably tied, seeing as how the Bucs did add the protection for Tom Brady that they needed before adding defensively or anywhere else on the board. And as for the Falcons, they added cornerback A.J. Terrell, strengthening their defense. Now, the Saints are what surprised me. They picked up a center round 1. I thought they were actually going to strike defensively first. They did end up getting down the line and grabbing the linebacker that I thought that they needed overall, but it was the Panthers that I kind of have in the failing category of the draft. Why? Because they have some pretty solid veterans on their defense, and they actually have been able to show up defensively most games, in my opinion. Here's the thing. You have a new head coach. You have a new quarterback. You have a new system. With all of these news offensively, I would think that your focus would be on building offensively, which means grabbing those guys that you can build a team around and start thinking long-term longevity within this draft. And you had a lot of offensive talent come out that you could have been rebuilding a team around. So for them to go defensively out the gate and in continuation and then trading one of their picks, like, kind of blew my mind. So again, I haven't ripped up my notes, but this is feeling a lot like March Madness to me. As for the Bucs, the surprises, whom they picked, how well they have done and will continue to do. Rounds 2 and 3, of course, like we said, were yesterday. The Bucs did surprise me in full frustration by grabbing a safety at round 2. But I'm not frustrated. Once you really dive into the notes and the analytics of it all, you kind of catch why and how, and you get more excited rather than annoyed. And it's not like I'm the one running the team, so why I'm taking it so personally, who knows? They pick up safety Antoine Winfield out of Minnesota. He's an all-Big Ten first-team player. Now, he has NFL experience through his dad. His dad actually played 14 seasons in the NFL for the Bills and has picked off his new teammate, Tom Brady. That was a really fascinating thing to hear yesterday in the post-draft press conference. It was really funny to think that his dad already had his own connections and odds with Tom Brady. And the funny thing is that Brady even mentioned that he's super excited for Winfield to get down here and meet his new teammate face-to-face. So I'm like, what else took place in some of those games? It kind of gives you a rank on how old Tom Brady really kind of is, but not so much. It was only Brady's second season behind Drew Bledsoe, and Winfield playing for the Bills got a pick on Brady, and we'll see how they rehash that when they see face-to-face post-quarantine and all the other craziness taking place. So congratulations, Antoine, for joining the Tampa Bay Bucs. He was our second-round pick. As for third round, initially I had us grabbing a running back in the second round, and I've gone on and on and on about how we need this big back. Not disappointed, but definitely still intrigued at the fact that the running back that we grabbed was Keyshawn Vaughn out of Vanderbilt. Now, Vaughn is a multi-skilled running back. He's not the frame and size that I had in mind. Once again, I went down the whole chart as why I think we need a low center gravity running back, a little bit bigger, harder to get off his feet. Vaughn has a little bit similar build to Ronald Jones and similar skill set as Ronald Jones. It's still an option. I mean, you can't go wrong with having somebody who can rush as well as, catch passes in crucial moments. But he mentioned a lot about receiving passes in his post-draft press conference, and that's the only thing that kind of throws me because, again, I was kind of looking for that true blue running back. But nonetheless, he has actually looked at some things in terms of what Bruce Arians likes and what Bruce Arians is looking for out of a running back. So standing at 5'10", 210 pounds, again, he is versatile. He says that with a quarterback like Tom Brady, that he'll be a strong pass catcher in the backfield. He does vouch for the fact that he is an explosive back and can help develop the run game as well as add to the pass game. And the biggest thing that stood out to him in conversations with the Bucs and head coach Arians is that Arians wants a pass blocking ability on third downs. And he said that he's confident enough to manage that situation and take on the challenge. He considers himself one of the best and very comfortable at pass blocking ability at third down. So it'll be very interesting to see how he starts to fit into the Bucs system and what the Bucs are really doing here. Again, Ronald Jones stepped up this past season. Now you have a guy who's, wants to be used in versatile situations. He wants to catch, he wants to rush. I personally can't wait to see how he manages keeping on his feet against big guys, but we still have a lot of talent offensively on the Bucs, so it's realistically nothing to worry about. The other interesting thing to take note of is that Vaughn actually said that he tries to model his game after Alvin Kamara, So when you start looking at that dynamic, then you do get excited because Kamara is a dominant running back and he does do explosive plays and he is versatile as well. So if he can bring that energy and translate that skill set to Tampa Bay, then you can't go wrong there. Now, heading back to some chat about the Saints. Of course, I ranked them below the Bucs and the Falcons in terms of their draft grade. They picked up a center round 1, which I wasn't quite expecting because, again, we thought that they were going to focus defensively this draft. Round 2, they trade with the Dolphins. Round 3, they finally grab some defense. They pick up linebacker Zach Bond out of Wisconsin. Bond is known to be disruptive in the backfield. And the interesting thing here is that Tom Brady and his intro press conference mentioned that the NFC South is one of the strongest defensive divisions. So he even mentioned that he's going to have to reacclimate his game and his vision to play in this division. So the Saints have been one of the biggest talks competitive-wise of the teams that we will go up against in the NFC South. And Zach Bond is going to add to that disruption. He's going to add to that ability to have to pick up your game, have better vision on the field, and so on and so forth. So congratulations to the Saints for picking up Bond. And then ending the third round, they actually traded with the Vikings and grabbed a tight end. We know that they haven't really stacked in the tight end position in a couple seasons, so that ended up working out for them. Falcons, I'm still grading the best because not only did they pick up defensively first round, grabbing cornerback A.J. Terrell, but they still grabbed another defensive lineman second round, Marlon Davis out of Auburn, and then they grabbed a center to protect Matt Ryan. Matt Hennessy will now be in there, making sure that Matt Ryan is even more protected. We know Matt Ryan is a very skilled quarterback. We've got a lot of skilled quarterback in this NFC South. I can't wait for the season to take off because now NFC South is going to be one of the top and most competitive divisions in the league. Now, I already mentioned the fact that the Panthers, in my opinion, should have been focusing on building offensively, new system, new head coach, new quarterback, so on and so forth. You cannot just hyper-focus on the fact that you signed Christian McCaffrey to an extension, and then that's going to be that. You can't put all that pressure and that burden on that guy's back for every season here on out. You've got to do better than that, Panthers. But they grabbed a defensive tackle, Derek Brown, first round. They grabbed Jeremy Chin, a safety out of Southern Illinois, and then they traded out of their third-round pick. So we'll see what they do today. And then, of course, Monday we'll give you a full recap and a full grading of how well we think the teams did in the NFC South. As for other Florida teams, we discussed the fact that Miami did make a very smart move grabbing Tua. Even though there was a lot of heat on Tua's back in terms of what he cannot do, how he finished his collegiate career. Again, we can beat that dead horse another day. But the bottom line is that Tua's appeal is that he has a unique skill set. He can be a mobile quarterback. He has a solid arm on him. His dad trained him to stop throwing right-handed and to throw left-handed. Now, if you think about a left-handed quarterback in the pocket, that can confuse defenses. So they have a weapon there in Tua, and he fits way better in the Dolphin system than he would in almost any other team, in my opinion. After Tua, the Dolphins grab a guard, Robert Hunt out of Louisiana, and then they trade the Saints for Raquan Davis, a defensive tackle, and then added to the defense once more by grabbing safety Brandon Jones. So they've done pretty well about grabbing across the board. You grab that new quarterback, you start to build a team around him. They do have wide receivers that they can start utilizing more, and once that chemistry picks up between Tua and those new weapons, then they built out properly, adding a guard and then making sure that their defense has less holes in it, because we saw how the Dolphins can go from performing well quarter one, quarter two, and then they come back from halftime and then Lord knows what just happened. Jaguars draft style, if you pull up previous statistics, head back to 2017, it looks like they've done the same thing now that they did in 2017. They're just kind of grabbing across the board. Just a wide receiver here, a D tackle here, a corner here. I don't particularly know what their approach is. Not that they have many gaps to fill. We've seen them have strong moments. We've seen them have weak moments. So I guess it's more for plugging in small holes for them. So they grabbed a wide receiver out of Colorado and a D tackle out of Ohio State. So today's that wrap up of really, polishing your team, polishing what 2020 is going to look like for each of these teams. So again, even though this is technically the real draft-a-thon today because it's long, it starts in 12 minutes. The bottom line is that this is actually bigger than the beginning of the draft, because this is where you're really filling in those holes and you're really getting a vision of what this team is going to look like, how they're going to perform, and what's expected of them going into OTAs, virtual OTAs, and heading into the 2020 season. So I am super excited because everyone's actually drafted quite well. There hasn't been much madness. I wonder if this year, because we're doing a virtual draft, that those dramatic picks and trades are kind of minimized, because there's already just a lot going on in terms of being virtual. But teams are doing quite well for the most part, and it's going to be really interesting to see how these OTAs take place, how this preseason is going to take place, and how we begin to head into the 2020 season. But as for now, I'm excited about where the Bucs are heading. It was interesting again to see them pick up a safety round 2 instead of a linebacker. I know Jonathan Taylor came off the board quick because Colts had 2 picks in round 3. I was feeling some type of way about that, but all in all, when you have the talent, then again, it's just filling in those blanks. So today, what direction these teams are going to go in, I cannot wait to see. We will give you a full update and draft grades on Monday. That's it for me today, guys. Enjoy your Saturday. Enjoy the rest of the draft-a-thon. Don't forget to take some time to look into those COVID-19 relief funds, whether you need help or whether you're in a position to give help. Let's make sure we're all doing our part, staying safe and staying sane, and I will catch you guys on Monday.